Hi, welcome to Learning with Boys. This is a second video to questions and answers that I had asked for on my community tab here on YouTube. And I also asked some questions on Instagram. And yesterday I just posted answers to some general questions I had. And today the questions are more related to the curriculum that we use a majority of, and that is Heart of Dakota. So if you are interested in knowing a little bit more about me and about high school, about grading, think about what else was in the other video. I'm going to link that other video below. I hope you take time to check it out. But today we're going to talk about some questions that are related to Heart of Dakota that I have from you all. I do have 4 boys. I have graduated 2. I have an 11th grader and a 6th grader this coming school year, and we just finished up our 15th year. So let's start out with that first question. We have some questions about Heart of Dakota curriculum that we use, and if you are not familiar with it, I will link them below, but I'll also link the playlist of videos that I have about them below. They are a boxed curriculum with more of a Charlotte Mason philosophy, Christian worldview. They have every subject and how it's laid out for you. Now, saying that, my first question is from Megan Russell over on Instagram. She said, "What about Heart of Dakota makes you stick with it?" Okay, so my first thought is the living books. From experience, I have just learned that that is the way my boys learn, and myself. I really enjoy them, and we have tried textbooky curriculum, and I'm always like, why did I do this? So we go back to Heart of Dakota because we just like the flow of it. As you are studying history, you're also building character through these books in this curriculum, and that's another reason I really like the books. Of course, it does have a biblical worldview, which is definitely a plus for our family. Another thing will be the layout of the guide. I've looked at other guides. I've borrowed other guides to look through, like Sunlight and My Father's World. Now, I did use My Father's World for first grade. I did really like that. But as they got older, just the book selection and the layout of the guides, and that is really what draws me. It's just easy, it's open and go, and to tell you the truth, they actually ask for that. They prefer, because I'll say, well, what do you think about this and what do you think about that? Especially even with my son with the U.S. history when I was trying to decide. But he was like, well, is it going to be like this? I was like, yes, it's the guide like this. He was like, okay. Because he likes the layout of it. It's easy to follow directions. Now, I also like the flexibility of it. I don't feel the pressure of having to do it all, but there is so much there, because usually even in the younger years, there's some type of elective like poetry or art or something like that. But I don't feel like I have to do it all. There are probably the reasons that I keep coming back to it. Here is another question. With your years of experience, do you think it would be worth it if someone were to only use the history and geography and Bible portion of the curriculum? And this is by Becky Diaz. Okay. So it's sort of similar to what I just answered. So yes, because there are times that is what I did. I mainly used it for the history. And it is one of the reasons we keep going back to it. We love the living books. It is definitely worth it. Now, I am someone that probably has bought several of the guides used, several of the books. They have made a lot of changes recently to some of the books and guides, and I think some of it is for the younger elementary guides and just a few changes in the middle school. And I think in the high school, because I did email them to ask them directly, it was more like adding some math. So it wasn't like a huge change. It was more like giving you more options for some of your core subjects. So for me, yes, I would not have a problem of getting the curriculum just for those subjects. Third question, this is a good question. Is it doable to add supplements to HOD, which is Heart of Dakota Curriculum Guide, like a study, a health, Spanish? Thank you. Rebecca, PR. I'm thinking you might be talking about the younger guides, because in high school, those things are sort of implemented in there, like Spanish, health. Now, I have not followed the guides with those. I have done my own as electives. But if you're thinking as like an elective for when they're like in middle school or even elementary, I personally do not see a problem adding that in. Now, I don't know if I would add all three in at the same time. I'm thinking you're thinking about a study, maybe something specific, like a bird study or something. I'm not really sure what you mean by a study. A health, of course, that would be obvious in Spanish. But I will tell you, if you're going to think about adding something in, that you may want to drop something from the guide. Like they have some of their own electives, like poetry and art are usually somewhere in there. And they also have the history project. If you're going to do a study, maybe you won't want to do the history project, or maybe you want to do a deeper study of the subject you're doing, of the history that you're talking about. I think it's doable depending on your kid's personality. I've had kids who are just glad to be done with school, and not that they didn't enjoy it and learn it, but they need to go do something else physically and be outside, or, you know, their own interest. They want to grasp hold of that. Sometimes we can overdo something, but I do remember doing unit studies with my boys when they were younger, but it probably wasn't as much when I started a Heart of Dakota. But I will tell you another thing is that we did Heart of Dakota while doing a co-op. So, and we were able to balance that, and it wasn't too much, but I will tell you we probably dropped a couple of things. So like I said, it really depends on your child and their personality and what you are taking in. Like I could totally see doing like a kid's Spanish as a family together, doing a couple family subjects. Maybe you want to teach the whole family about some health. And we have done things like that. And as I had high schoolers and younger kids, I would pull out something specific that I wanted to either study together. I actually did a signer study, and I had made notebooks for the three oldest, and that is what they worked on, and we read it and we talked about it, and I even wrote on the board things for them to put in the notebook. But they were a little bit older, like my oldest was in high school. So, and I've also done read alouds that had to do with health or life skills, and they were all probably a little bit older then too. So just throwing out some ideas there that I do think it's possible, but at the same time, you might want to think about, do I need to go ahead and let go of something first before I add in more? So it's just what you're going to have to weigh out, because they have done other things with Heart of Dakota. But again, we were not doing everything in the book. Okay, there is one more question. Do you have a favorite or least favorite HOD guide? And oh, this is by Amy Williams. Now that was a hard question because, you know, I feel like for each child, that answer could be different. And I don't know if you want to know from the child's point of view or from my point of view. Like, I was a little worried about Creation of Christ with my son that we did with last year. And it really went well. I think he really actually enjoyed it, even though he is all about World War II. So I think sometimes we don't give the kids enough credit for a new subject matter. You know, this is what they're interested in. This is what they want to study about. But he still studied and learned about World War II. He had books. He had his pictures. He has maps. That is his extracurricular. So, but then we also studied about Creation of Christ. And I think it's really just because of all the living books that he enjoys that part of it, and he did fine with the rest of it too. But it probably was not like his favorite because of the subject matter. Of course, for me, preparing is probably one of my favorite because that is the first one we used, and I fell in love with Heart of Dakota because of that year. We're going to be using Resurrection to Reformation this school year, and that first time we used that was a really good year too. I'm not sure if you're possibly thinking about skipping a guide or doing something else for another year. And I will tell you, not sure if this is really all the answer to the question, but it might give you, I'm not really sure why you're asking the question, but I do know, like my one that's going into 11th, I really wish I would have done Heart of Dakota with him a little bit more in his middle school years. We started a little bit late with him, and then we skipped a year, and then we did a different curriculum, thinking I might try to combine him with my younger one. But that was the year we used more of a textbooky, and we just did not enjoy it. So I think, you know, I could say, oh, this isn't our favorite one or this isn't our favorite one. But at the same time, I would prefer to use it than another curriculum. Does that make sense? I think it's really something that's not going to be our favorite because it's not our favorite era of history, our favorite subject matter. But I do want my boys to be familiar with all things. I want them to be knowledgeable and be able to talk to other people and communicate with other people about more than just one subject. So, all right. I hope all that makes sense, and I do appreciate you all watching this video. It was fun to see the different questions and what's on people's hearts and minds, and would appreciate it if this was helpful in any way or enjoyable, that you would give it a thumbs up, and if you have not yet subscribed, that would encourage me so much. I do hope you all have a wonderful week. I look forward to putting out some videos about planning for my 11th grader and 6th graders, so I need to get to work on that. All right, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and we will talk to you again soon.